going to do? I can get this to the point where, and you can't with a piece of paper, because it will just, oops. See that? See what I did there? It's sound. Resonance will lift things. Now the key to the pyramid thing, actually, is not that they came along with this great big piece of scientific equipment to do it. Yes, they did. They had an artifact, and you can read about it again. They even tell you what it was. You know, believe it or not, pretend it's myth if you want. They had an artifact, but the key was the mind. You see, back then, they knew all of this, and they literally lived their lives with this understanding. Nothing outside of this was real to them. Now this implies, sorry, I'm pointing at that, because everything is light, and light can be manipulated. If you understand its frequency and what to do with it and so on, it can be manipulated. Matter is light. Stone block, 83-ton stone block, is light. It's also made of crystal, incidentally, the pyramid stones, which actually helps to amplify the whole thing. So get it resonating, and you could then feasibly pick it up. But I tell you what, you're going to be hard pushed to lift it all the way up there. It goes up on its own. I've seen I think it was about half a ton block of stone lifted the height of a house. You know, it's not made up. There's these experiments, scientists are doing this all the time. You just don't read much about it because you're not meant to know this. It's not mainstream stuff, but it's out there for anyone who wants to see it. The link with the pyramid builders is the mind. They expected it. They had power. It was quite understandable to them to think, I'll levitate that as a group. And they probably did something like the Om, which I've seen druids do, and lift another druid. Yeah? Om, anyone got that? The Om, resonant vibration of voices. It would be fun to try it in here. Have you ever experienced, I'm not going to, but have you ever experienced it? Have you experienced the Om? Yeah? It's amazing. When you have a group of people do it, it's sort of quite, what's the word? Emotional.
Does it matter what key you use, what key you do it in?
No, you'll naturally find the key.
So what's the right note?
There's no right thing. It depends what your target is. A stone will need a different frequency to resonate than a glass would or whatever. But I think, as I heard someone here say, you'll know the right note when you hit it. Yeah. Just like most things in life, everything evolves in this way. So, okay, let's take that to a scientist. And they say, well, actually, yeah, and this is what they say, I see that. That's actually hell. That means this is wrong. Well, that means that's wrong, but surely it can't be, can it? Yes, it can. Go off and win the Nobel Prize in Physics by reworking your equations around there. And when you come across the number 7, just realise that it is in fact 10. Alright, you can scale it up to 10. Do your math that way. You'd be amazed what comes out of it. And what's come out of it, for me, has been the sort of, it's quite satisfying when scientists come back to you and say, yeah, I see that. And not one ever has criticised it, ever. And some, I believe, are changing the world. Now, I have to emphasise, this ain't from me, this is there for anyone to go look at. Alright? So, when you do move into the realms of science, though, that's when you're dealing with numbers and equations. And this was the part where it sort of had me bogged down for a year or two, dealing with scientists, asking me questions that I couldn't really answer. Because all I knew was that it was there. I didn't have the math behind it, until I discovered that the greatest mathematical conundrum in history has actually long been known, and that is the prime number sequence. Heard of prime numbers, anyone? A prime number is one that's indivisible by anything else except itself, or 1. Therefore, a mathematician will tell you 1 is not a prime number. It is. It's only divisible by itself. It's a prime number. And that little deception was intentional. That was known long ago, but you read in a maths book today, they won't quote 1 as a prime number. And that is because how do you put this one into words? They won't tell you that, and they need it out of the textbooks because a certain rule applies to prime numbers. They tell you that you can never predict the frequency at which prime numbers will crop up if you project into infinity. There's no way of predicting whether anything is a prime number or otherwise. What you have to do is take it and reverse calculate it and say, yeah, it is a prime number, or no, it's not. Well, if that's the case, how can someone like me and mathematicians out there say, sorry, but every prime number exists either side of every multiple of 6? Find an exception. Actually, let's see who's got a simple arithmetical head. I'm assuming you have, Dean. Can we go through prime numbers?
You can try.
Yeah, just start with 1.
I think with 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11,
Yeah.
13.
Okay, that'll do.
11 and 13.
Yeah.
Inside of 12. Okay.
1, 2, 3. Right. 2 is the only prime number that's actually even. All the others are not. What's going on there? So, this does tie in with this. I don't mean to make this complicated. Remember, we've got 3 energies. 3 energies, active, passive and neutral. Each inwardly composed of 7 notes, which when in harmony create the 8th note, bringing it into physical reality, creating matter, energy, whatever it may be. 3. Every number is made up of 1, 2 and 3. There are no exceptions. That's the number system. And numbers are quantities. That's all we're talking about, is quantity of something. Plato believed numbers were real, that numbers, we live in a universe of numbers. That's what it is. I would agree, but it's a different thing. 1, 2 and 3. 3 is 1 plus 2. Blah, blah, blah. You can all do that little bit yourself. 5 is made out of 3 and 2. 136 is made out of, you can work it out. Do you get it? It's all 1, 2 and 3. You don't need any other numbers to make any other number. So those 1, 2 and 3 are very special numbers. No surprising then that they keep referring to the Trinity throughout history. All right? You have your, as you point out, pyramid, triangle, all sorts of things, but the Trinity. This is your Holy Trinity, for want of a better word. 1, 2 and 3. Now the next prime number was 5, 7, 11, 13, and you can go on to infinity with your prime numbers. I used to notice in a work environment, whenever you give a handout, people's consciousness just dives into it and they ignore what's being said and done. Try not to do that. I'll give you these. Could you pass them round? There's 12 there, and I have the 13th. Just make sure that everyone can sort of see one or have one on the table or something. Yeah. Now, interestingly, what was the name of the damn movie I watched? The Esoteric Agenda. I'm sure a lot of you will have seen that. I only saw that last week, and there's a guy in there. What's he call it? His universal spiral, I think. Something like that. Yeah. He's come up, he's cracked the secret of nature, and he came up with this universal spiral. And I was sat watching it and thinking, yeah mate, you have. Because that maps perfectly. It's not the same thing. This maps perfectly over his universal spiral. He's given it different names and whatever. It's the same thing. There you have the prime number cross, alright? Now I can't show you this, but I'm going to tell you what I learned from theologians and what I learned from research and so on in esoteric law and the secret societies that I did get involved with. The book of Numbers will tell you what to do. Certain parts of the Bible will tell you, if you want to decode this, do this. There's a classic line that says this, do it time and half a time again. We might just touch on what that part means, but it does basically tell you to take your numbers, alright, that's in the book of Numbers, and to put